My name is Damir Juric, and I'm from Claverack, New York. Last 8 years, I am unfortunately victim of medical, judicial, and legal corruption in Kingston, New York.
When did you meet Michelle?
Did I give you a list of the questions? Yeah.
Yeah, you did. Let's see if you did.
Yeah.
Is it on the back?
Hold on. I just gave you some of the questions for you to open conversation. Okay. I think.
I don't have the questions.
Okay. This is for you, but now you need to help me to put this together. I apologize.
Put it under your arm and just put it under your
Over here. Is that
That's good.
Yeah.
All right.
You look good on camera.
Huh?
He looks good on camera.
Thank you.
He does. Handsome man.
I used to have a hair prior to this.
Well, you probably look better without hair.
Thank you.
I'm just guessing.
And it's in right now, so bald is in.
Mm-hmm.
I've got it. I'm due for a haircut. I'm tempted just to have him go and just shave it all off.
Compliment of corruption, huh?
Yeah. Go around and be. It would make it easier to get dressed in the morning. Wouldn't have to shampoo.
Yeah.
Some guy told me he had a little short bit of hair. He just said, "I shampoo with a bar of soap." One quick swipe.
But the gray is distinguished, Bill.
Pardon me?
The gray is distinguished.
Thank you, yeah. I shaved my beard off once when my children were small, and they came with my wife to pick me up at the airport, and they passed me by. And because I'd had the beard for so long, and they came back around, and the kids were crying. They were, grade school and preschool, and they were crying. And so I said, okay, I'll grow it back. So I've shaved it off once in the last 35 years or so, and I looked so bad. I said, oh, I got to grow it back. All right, let's go to Damir. So, how did your legal troubles get started? Before that, when did you meet Michelle? How far does this go back?
I met my wife for quite a bit of time. I was a senior maitre d' hotel for Carnival Cruise Line, managing cruise ships, and I was traveling around the world and spending quite a bit of time at Florida, Caribbean, Alaska, Hawaii. And I met my wife and her family during one of the trips. Nothing happened during that trip, but my wife fell in love with me, and then we start communicating, and after that I start coming and visiting here in Hudson Valley. She used to come and see me at Florida, and that grew into a relationship and a love that was resulted with the marriage, and after that our beautiful daughter.
Right. In time frame, when did you first meet her?
That was somewhere in around 2001.
Okay. And you married when?
In 2001, I got my beautiful daughter in 2002.
When did you get divorced?
Divorce was finalized after dragging me to the court for 3.5 years in 2007 in Kingston, New York.
So by 2004 or 2005, you started the divorce?
I did not start. The ex-wife started with the wrong pretenses, influenced by her family, that they wanted to steal business property from me in Kingston, New York. In the goodness of my heart, I pour most of my life savings into business property in Kingston that I was planning to open my restaurant. In the same time, I got position as a lecturing instructor, and then later got promoted to assistant professor at the Culinary Institute of America. Altogether, over 30 years of hospitality experience. I am proud American and Croatian citizen. I was born in Zadar, Croatia, down on Dalmatian coastline between Italy and Austria. Have a extensive experience in a cruise line industry, but also in a restaurant and a hotel management that took me pretty much all over the world through these years of my hard work. And then I came here in Kingston, New York, and that all was stolen and destroyed by the wrong accusations in order to take my daughter away from me and to take away from me business property that I bought together with the father-in-law, Robert Stange, that unfortunately became so greedy and wanted to take everything away from me. He tried to hold me hostage, not allow me to develop a project that I started, and then influence my ex-wife to turn against me. In a process, unfortunately, some of their dirty family secrets came out, and in 2004, my ex-wife confessed to me that she was molested by her own father, Robert Stange, when she was a teenager during the practice in lacrosse, that when her father was her coach. She begged me to keep that as between us. If ever her father started being abusive to her again or to our daughter, then I know what to do. But also another thing came out that unfortunately I do not enjoy to talk publicly about that, but become, I think, one of the striking issues of all these 8 years of my nightmare that I am living through. I also discovered that with the full knowledge of her parents, through the confession of ex-wife Michelle Stange Juric, that from age of 14 to age of 19, with the full knowledge of her parents, she was raped and she was forced to stay in an ugly relationship with the 40-year older man than her, who was a friend of family, Takis Paris, a.k.a. Taki, merchant from Stone Ridge, New York, who was a family friend of Stange family, and I was told that they had some financial dealings with him.
This is sick.
This is sick and sad because all this came out when I was already married, and that came out when I was already involved in a business transaction with the father-in-law. On top of that, that came out during time when my newborn daughter, actually, she was in 2004, 2 years old. She was born in 2002. Ex-in-laws used my daughter as basically puppet to keep me and force me to stay here in the Hudson Valley. I had a brand new home in Naples, Florida, where I planned together with my wife to start our family and where we're gonna reside and live on permanent basis. Of course, after the childbirth of our daughter, my ex-wife asked me to spend some time here, and as a reasonable and good husband, I agreed to that, even that business opportunities and professional opportunities were not good here as I would get them in a large cities such as in New York City, Northern New Jersey, where I used to live years ago, or anywhere else around the world. In that case, I did my best, pour my life savings in this project in uptown Kingston, where I was opening a restaurant and a bar, and then in the same time on the second floor, I was remodeling home, a nice two-bedroom condominium for my new family to live with. In the meantime, we lived with the ex-in-laws in Stone Ridge, where we were regularly paying rent and for the child care of my little daughter. Ex-in-laws were daily interfering in our marriage. Knowing what I found through the confession of my wife in regards to her abuse, somewhere in 2004, I politely confronted my ex-in-laws, Robert and Nancy Stange, and I asked them to stop interfering in our marriage. And then I asked them why they never reported Takis Paris, a.k.a. Taki, the owner of Stone Ridge Supermarket, where ex-wife worked as a teenager, for his crimes, rape and forcing her to be in the same relationship for 5 years. First, what I questioned, and I questioned my wife, I said, why did you stay in that? Why you did not report to the authorities? And my ex-wife told me that she had a specific instructions from parents that she needed to bring a paycheck home, and besides that it was some financial dealings between her father and their friend Takis Paris. He was 40 years older than her. In that time she was in a student in a Randolph school district. And why I'm mentioning this Randolph school district, it's important because today my daughter, 10-year-old daughter, is a student in the same school district, and she is being abused different way by the officials who use their system to launch 4 different Child Protective Service reports against me in order to help ex-wife to remove me out of my daughter's life. My daughter and me have a tremendous relationship and we dearly love each other. When in 2004, I said to ex-in-laws Robert and Nancy Stange that I will personally report rape and crime that was committed toward Michelle Stange, my ex-wife, to District Attorney Donald Williams, who was then District Attorney in Ulster County in Kingston, New York. Just a few weeks after that, on September 27, I was set up and I was reported to Kingston Sheriff's Department that I threatened to kill ex-wife, that I threatened to kill her parents, and then that I threatened to kill my 2-year-old Morgan, and then that I will kidnap her to Croatia. These don't have no logic, especially no logic in that you kill your own child and then kidnap her to Croatia. I want to clarify that I am honest Croatian and American citizen. I am a gentleman who has 2 countries and dearly likes and loves both of them. Also, my daughter is American citizen and my daughter has a right to Croatian citizenship through me, and she has a family in Croatia, her grandparents, my 2 brothers and their families. And as per record, my daughter was already 5 times in Croatia, together with me and with her mother. In that case, until things were fine, in-laws traveled to Croatia, ex-wife traveled to Croatia, and now Croatia is being treated as some third world country when this is convenient in order to show me as an unstable person. In order to create their sick and evil deeds that they planned, they hired their close friend, doctor of general medical practice, Dr. Lynn Mary Bergenstrasser, that was very briefly my personal doctor, saw me 3 or 4 times for the minor injuries when I was working on my property, such as my swollen knee, or a few times when I hurt myself during the work when I was working on my restaurant and building. That same doctor ended up behind my back, without any knowledge. I found about that almost a year later when I subpoenaed my medical documentation. She was writing in my medical chart that I'm danger to my daughter. She wrote in a medical chart that she suggested to ex-wife to divorce me because I am a man with a strong personality. She told ex-wife to never allow me taking my daughter alone to travel to Croatia because I will never return. And basically she ended up instructing ex-wife how to obtain a restraining order and what she needs to do in order to set me up, and then to take me to the court for the divorce in order to steal the property and to steal everything that I created for me, for my ex-wife, and especially for my daughter.
And I bet she didn't want to produce those records.
That is the legal battle that is now continuing from 2004 to 2012. This is 8 years in New York court system. Finally, after 7 years, I had my day in a court on July 11 to July 15. It was a jury trial in New York Supreme Court in Kingston in front of Honorable Judge Michael Melkonian. But I would like to step back for the minute because there are quite a few things prior to that occurred. On September 27, with your permission of course, on September 27, I returned home from work at day prior to that, when I returned from the work at Culinary Institute of America, where I was instructor and professor there, I came home and had a conversation with my ex-wife, and I told her, I said, honey, your father is intentionally holding me hostage. He does not give me permission to continue renovating a property that we bought together. When I bought the property, I created 2 corporations. One corporation was called North Front Street Associates, and that corporation had a piece of property, building that had an apartment and business space downstairs in old historic uptown Kingston. And in that corporation, both ex-father-in-law and me had 50-50 ownership in corporation. Even that I put much more finance that he did, agreement was that we will together pay mortgage, and then that we will remodel that property, and I will open my own restaurant under another corporation where I'm going to be sole owner of that to provide a living for my family, my wife, and my daughter. In that time, I had a brand new home in Naples, Florida, and I pulled majority of finance out of that, of my home in Naples. I invested in this. Robert Stange never put a dime beside his initial investment. Roughly, we talk about me putting $160,000, $170,000 and him putting around $40,000 in addition to my all work and labor that I did. Besides that, I spent over 6 months out of work working on that, where ex-father was working as one of the software engineers for the IBM in Poughkeepsie, New York. Ex-wife did not invest anything in that project. Ex-wife did not work in that time. During time when I worked as a maitre d' on the cruise ships, during time when she was pregnant, she had a full access to my account, and she was monthly taking allowance to take care of her baby and paying for the all expenses. And she was, of course, with our money that I was providing, paying her parents for the rent until we temporarily lived with them. Ex-father-in-law and ex-mother-in-law, Robert and Nancy Stange, unfortunately had a very ugly marriage where they often fight due to the history that they had. And I did not see that as a normal establishment for my newborn daughter. I kindly asked my wife on numerous occasions that we move out in order to start our life, but ex-wife did not like that idea. Still in that time I worked on cruise ships, and I was away for a few months. Then I would come and visit and be away again for a few months. To make things very simple, in 2003, when I came here and resigned from cruise line industry to start my home here in Kingston, New York, and open my business, prior to that, I was looking into buying another restaurant nearby Kingston called Marcel's. In that time, I gave authorization to father-in-law because I believed that he had all decent intentions, as he was claiming, to look and assist with the purchase of Marcel's restaurant. On the day when I resigned from the cruise ship and when I returned to upstate New York, I found that that sale did not come through. I was basically lied by him that things were not right due to some environmental issues. But putting that on the side, immediately I started looking for the different property, and I purchased that property in uptown Kingston, New York. Things were going well. We had a reasonable relationship in that time. I did not know anything about any hidden issues. I did not know anything about these dirty family secrets. But then when my ex-wife confessed to me, I saw a completely different picture, and I did not like this sick relationship that they had. I just became a father of a loving daughter, and now I found that ex-in-laws allowed abuse, sexual exploitation, rape, and molestation of their own daughter, and now these people were raising my child. Everything that I believed in was completely destroyed. Still, I was very nice and polite to my wife because I did not found that as her fault. But when I confronted ex-in-laws and I said, look, you are trying to raise my child, and on the other side here, you did not address abuse of your own daughter. I said, why don't you go to the authorities and report that? First, they came with the lies that they did not know about that. And then I said, excuse me. I said, Michelle, confess to me that you knew about that. Michelle confessed to me that her chemistry teacher in that time in Randall School District, Judy Gould, that was chemistry teacher, that she knew about that, and her husband, Arthur Art Gould, who was union leader in that time in the Randall School District, they knew about that. They told you about that, and you never report that to the authorities, never report to state police, never reported to Kingston Sheriff's Department. Immediately after that, I was told that I am F. foreigner, and if I do not keep my big mouth shut, that I will never see my daughter, because Robert Stange threatened me that he has connections in Kingston, political and judicial establishments, that he has connections, and that his family knew most of the judges, and it's very easy to arrange for Judge Brown to throw me in a jail for a few years. I was frozen. After that, immediately, even that my property was not finished yet in uptown Kingston, I left their home. I did not want to leave home earlier because I did not want to leave my daughter. I played with my wife, and I took my wife and my daughter to JFK Airport, Kennedy Airport in New York City, bought them tickets, sent them to visit my family in Croatia for a month and something until things settled down. In meantime, I moved to apartment and the business space that I was turning into restaurant, and I moved in. From that moment, I stopped having any contact with ex-in-laws when I found what they did to my ex-wife, and that they did not report crime to state police. My ex-wife spent 6 weeks in Croatia staying with my family. We were in daily contact over the phone. When she returned from Croatia together with my little daughter, when they were in Croatia, they were taking care with my parents and my brothers. They were provided with everything that was needed. And when they returned, I picked them up from the airport. I drove them to ex-in-laws' family home to pick up certain things. And then we moved together to our new address, 41 North Front Street in uptown Kingston. After we lived, the ex-wife lived with me on that location for approximately 10 days. During the day and when I was at the work, they were spending most time with the in-laws, and I never questioned a relationship of my ex-wife with her parents. I did not interfere with that, but for well-known reasons, I did not want to have any relationship with them after finding that they participate in crime against my ex-wife. And I kindly asked father-in-law, Robert Stange, that we sell immediately property that we purchased together, that we divide finance according to that, what he put in and what I put in, and that then we politely sever our ties with that I take care of my family, and they are free to see their daughter and granddaughter anytime they want, of course with the supervision of my ex-wife. On September 27, it was Sunday, and I will never forget that, somewhere in the morning, after waking up together in the same bed, playing with our 2-year-old daughter, having breakfast together, my ex-wife, Michelle Juric, Stange, took my daughter, and she said to me that they are going to Macy's for shopping. I said, okay, girls, I have one of the friends today from Culinary Institute is coming to help me here with the work on my new project, opening new restaurant. And please don't be late. I will make a barbecue later. We're going to have a lunch together. My ex-wife kissed me. My little daughter kissed me and hugged me. And they left. Hour and a half later, they returned back. And they said that they did not finish everything. Don't worry about them. They will come back later. Again, my little daughter kissed me. My ex-wife kissed me. Somewhere around 5 o'clock in the afternoon, a colleague of mine and me were over there in my apartment. And I said to him, Nick, I said, I'm sorry, but something is not right. I said, I'm worried about my wife and my daughter. I said, I have feeling like I have a family emergency. I took a phone and I called ex-in-laws, even that I never talked to them. Robert Stange answered the phone and I politely asked, I said, sorry for intruding, but I like to know, is my wife there maybe? And he responded, I cannot divulge any information and never call this phone number, and then he slammed on me. I went outside and my new Audi was parked at the front, and the other Audi that ex-wife was driving, I found down on the end of the road with the doors open. I was frozen. I knew something was wrong. But then I found the keys inside. I immediately jumped in a car and I drove toward Stone Ridge, toward the residence of ex-in-laws. On my way to them, I stopped by in a New York State Police barracks and I informed the state policeman. I said, I do not know what is going on, but I am deeply concerned for my daughter. I said, I'm going to ex-in-laws that I am not on good terms any longer, and I will need escort. They told me that they are busy and they cannot get involved in these kind of things. If I need any serious police help, to contact Sheriff's Department in Kingston City. When I arrived at Vincent Lane in Stone Ridge, where I used to reside with the ex-in-laws, I pulled on the driveway. I politely went and knocked at the door, and nobody answered. On the second floor, through the windows, I saw ex-wife with my daughter. 2 minutes after that, 2 cars pulled behind. One was a state trooper's car. Second was Sheriff's Department from Kingston. Apparently, there was already inside policemen in a house. I was told, Mr. Juric, you are under arrest. And I was shocked. I said, gentlemen, I said, I earlier stopped by state trooper barracks to ask for the help. I said, I ring the doorbell and knock the door, and nobody answered. I said, I am worried about my daughter. I would like you to go inside and see is my child. Okay? Because I know that ex-father-in-law and his wife are working against me and influencing ex-wife to divorce me. I was told that I am under arrest, but being that they checked my record, that I'm gentleman in great standing, that they're not gonna put handcuffs on me. They asked me to drive my car behind them, but to make sure that I do not run away, because then it will be a problem. I said, I will fully comply because I never did anything. I just want to make sure that my daughter is okay. Then I think sheriff deputy decided to give me alcohol test to make sure that I maybe did not drink anything. And I said I did not drink anything. They still took a breathalyzer test. And after that, they decided that everything was okay, that I was not under influence of alcohol. We drove to the sheriff's department in Kingston, New York, and the moment when I get in, a young lady was on duty. I recall her name was Shannon. When I get in, she said to me, "Oh, you are the guy who is trying to kidnap American baby?" I was shocked. I said, with all due respect, I do not know what are you talking about, but that baby, that American baby is my daughter, and she is American and Croatian citizen. I said, and I never tried to kidnap anybody. They told me that this afternoon they were at home of ex-in-laws in Vincent Lane in Stone Ridge, New York, and then in presence of her parents, ex-wife Michelle Juric reported me for the death threat against her, ex-in-laws, and for the threat that I will kidnap my daughter and take her to Croatia. That's where my nightmare started. I was then put in a police car, and I was taken to the police station on Garrigan Drive in Kingston, New York, where I was brought in front of the Kingston Judge Finney. Judge Finney and me knew each other from the town. I believe we ran into each other on a few previous occasions. And when I was brought in front of the judge told me, "My son, you do not belong here." He said, "But this is a serious charges." I was never given any paperwork or anything else, but judge told me to make sure that I hire a good attorney. And I was released on my own recognizance without any bail. I was not put in a jail. My entire world crashed in that time.
Let me interrupt for just a second. Did they fingerprint you? Did they mugshot you?
No, that did not happen.
So you weren't really arrested?
But I was told that I was arrested because I was asked to comply, to drive to sheriff's department. In the sheriff's department, I was told that I am the guy who is going to kidnap American baby. I have a thick accent, but as I clearly stated for the record, I am Croatian and American citizen. In that case, obviously, out of that, you can see that, unfortunately, I will find that down the road, everything is possible in Kingston, New York. I was simply set up. Following day, I went to family court in Ulster County Family Court in Kingston, New York, and I asked for the assistance because I wanted to go and see my daughter to make sure that there is no stress on her, to make sure that she's doing well, and besides that, I wanted to find what ex-wife has in her mind, because somebody last time she came and kissed me and told me she's going to the Macy's, and now I am being accused of domestic violence. The easiest way how to get a child custody, there are two ways to do it. One is to accuse you falsely of domestic custody. A second thing is to proclaim you mentally sick. In that case, they permanently take you away from your child. This was the first game that they played. They played with the false accusation of domestic violence. And I found that later all on the website of ex-wife attorney. She is celebrity attorney, divorce attorney Lisa Beth Older, has the office in New York City and has an office in Saugerties, New York. On her website, still today, years later, you can find videos with the directions how to accuse somebody of domestic violence and get domestic restraining order. Based on that domestic restraining order, when I came to the family court, I was told 10-15 minutes later that I cannot see my daughter because there is a pending divorce proceedings in New York Supreme Court in Kingston against me. That means one night I'm being falsely accused that I'm going to kidnap my daughter, and following day I already have a divorce proceedings arranged in a court. What was the funniest? My attorney John Tobin, that I hired in that time, he is today Chief Assistant District Attorney for the Ulster County, New York. He found later through the proceedings that divorce proceedings against me were actually arranged about 10 days earlier prior to this accident where they claimed that I threatened ex-in-laws, my ex-wife and my daughter with the death, and that I threatened to kidnap my daughter to Croatia. That divorce proceedings were arranged in a family court, and attorney Elizabeth Older was hired prior to this incident. In that case, that points clearly that this incident was arranged in order for them to have a legal action to start dragging me through the system.
What's her website?
Website for attorney Lisa Beth Older.
.com?
If you put that in Google, you will find it right away. She has creative videos that display techniques how to bring a man to the court and how to successfully prosecute him.
Just for grants?
If you go on Google, just... are you still recording or no?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Just keep it going there. Free video divorce information on demand.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my goodness, she's got a ton of them.
Mm-hmm.
Grounds for divorce. Order of domestic violence.
Thank you.
Divorce tactics.
That's the entire industry.
She sells divorce tactics for $30 on a DVD.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm her victim.
Let's do a soundbite that says, my wife used an attorney named Lisa Beth Older, and I discovered that she has a website that provides complete tactics about how to make a husband a victim, or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Why don't you go and put that in your words?
My wife, Michelle Juric, hired celebrity attorney Lisa Beth Older from New York City, and I was shocked when I found later that Lisa Beth Older, attorney-in-law, has the website in which she clearly demonstrates divorce tactics, how to implicate somebody with the domestic violence and how to make a man a victim. And I am a victim of her work and later her future plot with the Dr. Bergenstrasser to implicate me also as a mentally sick and danger to my child.
That was great. You have no problem calling these names and telling.
No, but I lived through all that, and that's unfortunate. Unfortunately, I want to clarify for the record, as much as I do this for me, after 8 years of living hell on earth, I do that for my loving daughter and my family that suffered through this. Because what we are facing here is the clear industry, divorce industry, where attorneys are raking enormous legal bills. Just to clarify for the record, 3.5 years of divorce proceedings and custody were intentionally dragged by Lisa Beth Older, ex-wife attorney, in order to milk every single dime out of my assets. Between her and my attorney, altogether, legal fees were over $100,000, and that were all paid out of the marital proceeds that I created with my hard work. That is a highway robbery. In one moment, my ex-wife, that was deeply confused with the influence of Lisa Beth Older and Dr. Bergenstrasser, considered reconciliation with me. And I will never forget that, because we met, this time without presence of my attorney. He was there in a court, but then he need to step away, and it was my ex-wife, Lisa Beth Older, and me. Another thing that was what happened in that time, I smell alcohol. Lisa Beth Older was under influence of alcohol. And when ex-wife wanted to talk with me, she told her, I am the divorce attorney. If you want to talk about something, then you better go consider somebody else. In that case, she promoted divorce, she promoted destruction in order to get larger legal fees.
Let me stop you. Go back and say that, but say it with Lisa Beth Older promoted divorce, so I can use it as a soundbite.
During the process, my ex-wife considered a reconciliation, but her attorney, Lisa Beth Older, that in that time was under the influence of alcohol, that I noticed, promoted divorce, insisted that ex-wife does not talk to me, and she just wanted to ensure that she gets much larger legal bill. To drag divorce for 3.5 years in custody in upstate New York, that is outrage. There was no reason for something like that. She was the one that did not want to stop proceedings until they did not took every single dime from me. Another thing that happened in that time, I bought my family home in Naples, Florida before marriage to my ex-wife. During the divorce proceedings, Lisa Beth Older arranged and insisted that my home is sold and that proceeds are put in escrow, and then attorneys were feeding from that escrow their legal bills until things were settled. This is racketeering and this is highway robbery. And I say that without desire to hurt anybody. I sincerely believe that some people have a license to steal.
Damir, is it your opinion that attorneys have a license to steal?
I cannot generally say that for every single person, but there is situations in my case where attorneys used their privilege and their license to extract every single dime from me. That what happened with Elizabeth Older was a great example. But even now, 8 years later, in Ulster County Family Court, I have a situation where another attorney, Jay Kaplan, is doing exactly the same thing, but we will talk about that when we come to this point. Again, he is dragging me through the 3 different proceedings in Ulster Family Court based on false accusations in order to make money. In that case, unfortunately, Ulster County, Kingston, New York, and Hudson Valley in general is deprived of jobs, but we have quite few attorneys that are distracting people. They are destroying them through the legal process. When people are going through the worst thing in their life, such as divorce, they get, first of all, their family gets destroyed, and then on top of that, they end up paying hefty bill, about $40,000, $50,000 for that. If anywhere in a life you go and you rob somebody for $50,000, you will go in a jail for 10, 15, or 20 years. But when this is done with the attorney, with the license, then it's illegal. Not just that that money is stolen from me. If that money went to the scholarship for my child, she be settled for the rest of her life. In my conversation, I'm not mentioning the name of my loving daughter because I am protecting her identity. But I deeply love her. And not just that I am robbed, she is robbed. And on top of that, she is being alienated against me by these same officials and legal professionals to cover what they did.
Let me get you to say as a soundbite, just as I'm being robbed of money by the attorneys that are being spent on legal expense, my daughter's being robbed as well. You said that in longer, but I want to make a shorter statement.
Could I just for the record mention that through the entire divorce proceedings 204, I lost a brand new home in Naples, Florida, business property in uptown Kingston, and my life savings. In that case, it took me 20 years to save that, and it was gone in a few minutes. Would you be so kind and rephrase one more time again exactly how do you want me to respond on this?
Say, not only have I been robbed of everything that I have, all my money, but it has served to rob my daughter of money that she could have had for her education and her future.
Not that I was just robbed for everything that I created in my life and that I was financially destroyed. Thousands of dollars were robbed from my daughter because that was intended for her future life and her education by me, her father. In that case, my daughter is a victim equally as I am.
All right, we've got 30 more minutes before I have to pack up to check out. We've been going for a little over an hour. So I want to make sure that we cover the most important things to you. So you take it from there.
All these events that I brought to your attention were basically introduction for the major things that took place in a near future. That means I was taken to the Kingston City Court on false accusations that I will kill ex-wife, her parents, and kill and kidnap my daughter to Croatia. That went for 7 months through the Kingston City Court. Of course, after that was settled and I was found not guilty, that same charge was used for divorce proceedings for 3.5 years through the New York Supreme Court in Kingston, New York, in front of Honorable Judge Mary Work. Judge Work did good job because on the end of the day, after 3.5 years, she realized what was happening. I was a victim of greedy attorney Elizabeth Older that dragged the case for no valid reasons, and Judge Work on the end of the 3.5-year-long divorce process decided that I am completely fit and loving and a reasonable father, and she gave me, out of the 4 weekends per month, she gave me 3 weekends with my daughter, a full-time visitation, and she ordered that my daughter can travel anywhere around the world with me, and especially that she can go regularly with me to visit family in Croatia, where her grandparents, her uncles, and cousins live down in the coastal city of Zadar, where I'm originally come from.
Let me stop you. You're saying that you believe this to be an honest judge?
In a scope of the things, I believe that Judge Mary Work saw what was going on, but then on other side, I don't believe that process was fair, because I believe that attorneys should not be allowed to drag the cases for 3.5 years in order to blink all assets from the people that they are representing. But one thing that took place here, and I think, and I'm giving credit to Judge Mary Work for that, is that she saw the tactics of Elizabeth Older and what she was doing in order to intentionally implicate me. During that time in 2005, Elizabeth Older, together with the ex-wife, and of course ex-in-laws Robert and Nancy Stange, arranged that Dr. Lynn Bergenstrasser implicates me somehow in order to give upper hand to ex-wife during court proceedings and to ensure that she receives full custody of my daughter. I believe that joint custody is the only fair approach, because each child should have equally both parents, mother and father. But what they did in my case, they hired Dr. Lynn Bergenstrasser to write in my medical chart an event and implicate me with the possible domestic abuse of my ex-wife. Also, Dr. Lynn Bergerstrasser wrote in my chart that she believes that I am mentally sick. She wrote in my chart that she believes that because I am person with the European descent and strong character, that I am potential danger to ex-wife and my kid. She also wrote and suggested, and that is in her notes, which I received later, and I found that when I subpoenaed my medical notes, that they were kept together with the notes for the ex-wife. Even in her practice, she did not have a separate medical notes for me, separate notes for ex-wife. I found that she wrote inside clearly and suggested to ex-wife to leave me because I have a strong personality and I will not bend over. Then later, on the end of 2004, it was the evening somewhere in December, where my ex-wife sister, Kristen Stange, brought my daughter for the visitation. Due to all this setup and false charges in Kingston City Court, they forced supervised visitation on me without any valid reason. And the funniest thing is that the supervised visitation was done under supervision of Kristen Stange and Thomas Stange, siblings of my ex-wife. One evening, Kristen Stange brought my little daughter Morgan to my apartment at 41 North Front Street in Kingston, New York. I cooked the dinner, I make the pasta, I even make the pasta for ex-sister-in-law. She was just sitting on the couch eating her pasta and observing what me and my daughter are doing. In that time, my Morgan was around 2 years old, and she said to her, she said, "Kristen, you can go home. I want to be with my daddy." My 2-year-old daughter is telling her that. When time came for my daughter to leave, she started crying, squealing, hugging me around my neck. Saying, "I want to stay with my daddy." And I said, "Honey, listen, you go home, you're going to come next time. Don't worry, everything's going to be okay. I love you more than anything." After they left, somewhere half hour later after that, I started having chest pain. I called same Kristen Stange that was just visiting earlier with my daughter, and I said to her, "Listen, I do not feel well, I have chest pain, I'm going to hospital. God forbids anything happens to me, I want my daughter to know that." As per restraining order in that time from the Kingston City Court and Family Court, I was unable to communicate with the ex-wife. I did effort on my side to communicate through the ex-sister-in-law. Somewhere around 9:30, 10 o'clock in the evening, I drove myself to the emergency room of a Benedictine hospital in Kingston, New York. I presented myself in emergency room. After they took my insurance information and everything else, I informed the doctor on duty, Dr. Harnett Sethi, that I have a strange chest pain, and just as a precaution, I want to make sure that everything is okay. They did immediately AKG, and during a process when you are laying 45 minutes on the trolley, I asked a male nurse on duty, I said, please, would you be so kind and bring me New York Times or National Geographic, something that I can read to occupy my mind. After that, it took about 10 minutes for the male nurse to return, and he returned with the hunting magazine. That hunting magazine had a little sticker on the back that says, white sticker says, property of Benedictine Hospital. I said to male nurse, I said, listen, I am not interested in reading that. I said, do you have something else? He said, everything else is taken in the meantime. He said, maybe I find something later. And I browsed through that for a few minutes, and that was laying over there next to me. Dr. Harnett said he returned and said to me that they checked my AKG and they did not find any evidence of heart attack, but just as a precaution, he was asking me to stay overnight for the observation. And I said, no problem. I said, I will stay. Could you kindly call my doctor, Dr. Mark Montera, from the same Ulster Family Medicine where Dr. Bergenstrasser works, and I will stay. A few minutes later, Dr. Harnett said he returned again, and he said to me, oh yeah, everything is arranged. You will be admitted to hospital by Dr. Lynn Bergenstrasser. Immediately I said, excuse me, doc, I said, with all due respect, I do not want to be associated with Dr. Lynn Bergenstrasser because she already committed enough crime. She already did a lot of damage. I don't want to be admitted under her supervision to hospital. I'd rather go home and go to doctor on my own tomorrow. Again, he left and returned a few minutes later. I did not know that in meantime he was talking with the Dr. in Bergenstrasser. He said to me, and you do not want to be under Dr. Bergenstrasser's care. I said, first of all, Dr. Lynn Bergenstrasser was not in a Benedictine hospital. She was at her home, but apparently she was on the duty. I said, no, I want to be released. And I received a release paper from the Benedictine hospital where Dr. Harnett said he wrote that there was no evidence of heart attack. I came that evening to the hospital for the chest pain, and I am being released on my own request, and tomorrow I will go to the doctor on my own to make sure that I have a stress test. I took that paper, I left the hospital, and I went to my home. Following morning, I received a phone call from my attorney, John Tobin, telling me that we have emergency and that I quickly come to his office due to the big incident that took place last night in a Benedictine hospital. I said, excuse me, I said, what are you talking about? He said, oh, we're going to talk when you get to my office. Something told me right away that I am being set up. And before I drove to see my attorney, John Tobin, I went to emergency room of Benedictine Hospital, and I asked for the copies of my paperwork, medical paperwork that I was admitted previous night there. As I recall, some young lady was there and she gave me copies of that. I went to photocopy center, make a couple copies of that, left 2 of them in my bank safe box for the safekeeping. With 1 in my pocket, I went to see my attorney. When I arrived to my attorney informed me that starting immediately my visitation rights with my daughter are immediately suspended until I do not submit myself for the psychological evaluation because of threat to my daughter. And he said to me that as per Dr. Bergenstrasser, I ran out of the hospital before Dr. Harnet Sethi was able to commit me for the psychiatric help. This is the beginning of the setup, because nowhere in the world, as we know, nobody can examine you if that person is not with you in a room. Second thing, I had a release letter from the Benedictine Hospital from Dr. Harnet Sethi. In his notes, nowhere was written that I was ever danger to anybody. In his notes was not written that I was ever danger to ex-wife and my daughter that night. In his medical notes was never written that I ran out of the hospital. In that case, that's what Dr. Bergenstrasser was saying, and that what doctor who examined me had in his medical notes was completely opposite. Immediately my visitation was stopped with my daughter, and I did not see my child for next 7 months until I did not go through the psychological evaluation. Apparently what happened, that following day, Dr. Bergenstrasser called ex-wife. Actually, ex-wife knew already that I will be in a hospital because I was talking to her sister before I went there. Now, they used that opportunity to set me up. Dr. Bergenstrasser called my ex-wife, told her exactly this. He is in a hospital. Dr. Harnet Sethi is planning to commit him in a hospital for the psychological evaluation. Mr. Damir Juric is carrying a large stack of gun magazines in his hands, and based on that, he is a threat because of his interest in guns. Take a child, run out of the town, hide, and run for your life. Based on information that she received from this doctor, ex-wife immediately suspended all visitation between me and my daughter, and apparently her siblings that they were supervising visitation, and so on. That looks today like that. Now, 8 years later, as I look, that was arranged in order to try to classify me as a mentally sick in order for her to get full custody of my daughter, to proclaim me mentally unstable, and remove me out of the life of my child. Crime like that is, there are no words how to describe crime like this, but even bigger crime is that doctor in question, Dr. Lynn Bergenstrasser, is still practicing medicine in the state of New York, and through the 8 years, everybody are covering that. This is trying to certify somebody mentally unstable is a crime beyond belief, but is even bigger crime that New York State Judge Michael Melkonian is covering that crime through the court proceedings, because during the trial on July 11, 2011, after 7 years, Dr. Lynn Bergenstrasser was caught by my attorney, Michael Sussman, and she finally admitted that she intentionally broke the law, that she gave my ex-wife wrong information, wrong medical diagnosis, in order for her to submit to her attorney, Elizabeth Older, in order to drag me for 3.5 years unjustified prosecution to in a New York Supreme Court in Kingston, New York. In that case, I am still victimized because this doctor is now being protected by false charge that was given to jury in order to explain that in that time I was clear and imminent danger to ex-wife and my daughter. The funniest thing is that that same judge, Michael Melkonian, in 3 months prior to trial, issued a ruling in March of 2011, clearly stating in that ruling that Damir Juric that night in a Benedictine hospital was never danger to his wife, to his in-laws, or his daughter, that medical evidence, on contrary, is showing that he was actually victim of setup between Dr. Harnet Sethi and Dr. Lynn Bergenstrasser. Now I'm openly asking, how is that 3 months later, same judge is spitting on his own decision and using that same theory to justify crimes of Dr. Bergenstrasser. I am using this opportunity to call for United States Justice Department. I am calling for Justice Department and FBI. I am calling for New York State Attorney General Mr. Schneiderman, and I'm calling for Honorable Governor Andrew Cuomo to finally investigate crimes that took place in Ulster County, Kingston, New York, in my case, Juric vs. Bergenstrasser. In addition, also I'm asking them to investigate 3 present cases that they are being held against me in Ulster Family Court by corrupt attorney Jay Kaplan. And I am asking in interest of justice that these crimes are investigated, because I am a victim of 8 years of nightmare. For 7 years, I was assistant professor in hospitality and restaurant management. Due to the all negative influence against me, I am over 2 years out of work, unable to get a job anywhere around here. I reported this to the office of FBI in Albany, New York, last year, that I do not feel safe. And just few days after that, I was implicated with another 3 fabricated cases in Ulster County Family Court. For now, this time, quoted maltreatment against my daughter. For 9 months, I am seeing my daughter 1 hour per week in a homeless shelter in Kingston, New York. After almost 9 months long after almost 9 months long complaint to the New York State Child Protective Services, I received finally decision from the New York State Administrative Judge William Day, and I like to publicly thank this judge for being honest, because he came out with his report stating that ex-wife and another corrupt doctor now, Dr. Elizabeth Mund, therapist of my daughter, where my daughter went for 50 times in 1 year. She had 50 visits with this psychologist, Dr. Elizabeth Mund, and I want to clarify that my daughter, as per my knowledge, does not have any mental or medical condition. In that case, why do you take a child 50 times to psychologist if she does not need that? Also, for the record, in 2008, ex-wife took my daughter 150 times to another psychologist, 150 times to psychologist Katie Caproni, in order to provide her with another false medical diagnosis. In that case, I think that authorities in New York State and also federal authorities should look into abuse of medical reimbursements for the unnecessary medical treatments that my daughter is unjustly being put through. But more than anything, there is a culture of retaliation toward me. There is a culture of abuse, culture of zealot desire to implicate me and put me in a jail. Every single time when I go to Kingston to visit my daughter, I am in a fear that I'm going to be set up and put in a jail. And I'm also using this opportunity. God forbid, if anything happens to me, I am holding a New York State judge, Michael Melkonian, who committed serious judicial misconduct and miscarriage of justice, who discriminate me and who protected criminal Dr. Bergenstrasser. I am holding him responsible for my safety and my well-being. I am holding Dr. Lynn Bergenstrasser responsible for my safety. Officials in Ulster County, ex-wife Michelle Stein Juric, and more than anything, Robert and Nancy Stange. I like to, for the record, read example of one letter that was just recently issued against me. In that case, summary of my case is that we have a corrupt legal professionals and medical professionals inventing charges and medical diagnosis against me in order to keep me away from my daughter, in order to unjustly take me through the court and to prosecute me. This person here is called Elizabeth Mund, and she is a licensed psychologist in Ulster Park, New York. She is a private psychologist, but she is also official evaluator for the Ulster Family Court. What was intentionally being concealed during the proceedings. This is the person that never had any conversation with me. This is a person that saw my daughter 50 times in 1 year. And then this is a person when my attorney during proceedings in Ulster Family Court, my attorney Stephen Asbam asked her, "Did you ever contact Mr. Juric?" And she arrogantly said, "I don't need to contact him. I don't care about him." She wrote, and she misspelled even my last name. She said, over here, Elizabeth Mund, PhD, Michelle Juric's request for the modification of visitation. To whom it may concern, I have been seeing more, I'm not gonna mention my daughter's name. I have been seeing this child in therapy for over a year. The presenting problem is anxiety, especially in conjunction with the visitation with her biological father. What means that? I am being called just biological father? An anxiety ebbs and flows depending on circumstances involving visitation. There have been CPS reports filed. They have not necessarily been indicated. In that case, how she knows about these reports? She knows from ex-wife, who was submitting these reports, Randolph School District, and other corrupt physicians as her. Recently, this little girl told a friend that her father had threatened to kill her mother if she did not obey him. This has worried her immensely, although the reason why she has been so anxious has not been clear until she confessed to this situation to her friend, who told her mother and who told that to Morgan's mother. This is what I like to clarify here. The friend, my daughter goes to school with a little friend. Her little friend's mother is a friend with the ex-wife. That ex-wife friend also happened to be attorney, and she is also a local town justice, a local town judge. In that case, whether the current CPS reports is indicated or not, I would request that these visits are supervised and at least for a short time, and then perhaps after that, therapeutic visits in the presence of qualified psychologists in order to safely clear air between daughter and father. Daughter has a history of being able to talk fairly and openly with Mr. Juric, but his threat had severely impact on her ability to function. Her concern is that nobody is listening to her and that nobody believes her. Based on this letter of the medical professional who never saw me, Ulster County family judge Marian Mizell immediately terminate my visitation with my daughter for 7 months, and I'm presently seeing my child for 9 months in a homeless shelter 1 hour per week. I sincerely believe that this is not justice in the United States of America. Recently, we had a Secretary of State, Hillary Clinton, traveling to China, and during her visit in China, there was a situation with the prominent Chinese civil activist, and she helped that civil activist to arrive in the United States to escape a further prosecution from Chinese government. Here, as a father, as American citizen, I am asking, who is protecting us here in the United States of America? Who is protecting our children? Who is protecting us from unjustified prosecution? After my interview with the Lawless America, I sincerely believe that I will be further prosecuted, and I fear for my safety. But in my earlier statement, I clearly mentioned that I hope media and public will hold people accountable if anything happened to me. I love my daughter more than anything, and as long as I am able, I will use all legal means to protect her well-being. I want to clarify that I never tried to take and interfere between a relationship between my daughter and her mother. I want my daughter to love her mother, but I want same for me. I'm thankful for the Lawless America giving me opportunity, and especially thankful to Bill Windsor for giving me opportunity to be publicly heard in regards to this matter. And I hope that New York State authorities, Attorney General, Justice Department, and FBI will finally hold criminals responsible for their actions, what they did to me in the last 8 years and what they are presently doing right now. I do not want to exaggerate these things, but when you are put in a life in a position when as your father need to fight for the survival of you and your child, I will clarify this what is happening in our legal system due to the legal and medical and judicial corruption is equally important, and I think should be clarified as domestic terrorism. Thank you kindly.